Good afternoon and welcome to the latest results show from the Concours Virtual in aid of UNICEF. And today we have the results of Class I, poster cars of the 1960s, 70s and 80s. This class is kindly sponsored by our friends, the Chief of Staff Association. They admit just 300 new members per year into their association. And it's an unrivaled network and a set of capabilities to support some of the most important world leaders. So thank you very much, the Chief of Staff Association. So we've got poster cars of the 60s, 70s and 80s. These are the cars that teenagers stuck on their walls. They admired them, particularly if they didn't have the Athena tennis girl as another one of their posters. So David, tell me, from a people's vote, who came third, second and first in this particular class?
Okay, so these are the cars that have been voted for by the visitors to the site and social media. Interesting choices as usual, lots of votes, and this really shows that when somebody gets behind a favourite car, then it makes a hell of a difference. So we'll start third place, and I think this will be a popular one, 1984 Lotus Turbo Esprit. It belongs to Peter Boiter. He's had it for years and years. It's got, would you believe, 2,000 miles on it from new. It is a stunning thing, absolutely fantastic. In second place, we have 1963 Shelby Cobra Mark 1. Again, a really lovely one. It's a 289, so it's not got the great big arches. It's a bit more subtle. Really nice example. And this is belongs to Lewis Pollard. So congratulations, Lewis, it's great. In first place, we have the 1964, Bill Thomas Race Cars Cheetah. Now this is a really unusual thing, and it just shows again about this voting. It's just attracted a lot of attention. It's owned by Ian Burford, and congratulations, Ian, I'm really chuffed for you. I'll hand back to Jeff.
Thanks, David. And as you say, it's an unusual car, possibly not many people would have probably put it on their wall as a poster, but it's a fascinating machine. Okay, so moving on then to the judges' vote. And as we all know now, the first place, the best in class winner, goes through to the best in show as the contender. So tell me, Massimo, how did the judges go about actually choosing their best in class for this particular class?
Well, the first aspect to pick was which parameters we would have been applied in the judging, because of course we cannot see the car in real in a certain way, so we have to rely on the pictures and on the presentation. So we decided to give a lot of importance to the model. Indeed, so the real model that went on the poster was represented, let's say in a certain way, was putting a lot of percentage of our judgment on the fact that it would have been a potential best in class or selection for the class. And then we had how the car that was entered into the concourse was looking. So how was the presentation of this car? Which part of history, how were the information given, the pictures, and so on and so on and so on. So there was not a right decided percentage, certain amount of point because of that, and so on and so on. But let's say we decide to give an overall judgment that include with importance the model, then the very car registered to the event, and the presentation of the car. That was how we started. And then we went on debating, picking, let's say, trying to reduce the selection, because we started with a lot of cars. Yeah, and so we had to practically take off one by one to reach a shorter number and a smaller number, and then to vote for which one we would prefer to have as the best in class.
was there much discussion, much competition between a large group, or was it quite quickly boiled down to a
Let's say that since the first moment, it was clear that there were 3 or 4 cars that for sure would have achieved well. And then there were a couple of very intense discussions among judges about a couple of models, and so it was very beautiful to see one of the judges trying to became the promoter of a model, trying to convince the other, maybe because we had to pick which one in the position. So it was really interesting. And I would say yes, because of course, each one of us was a teenager, and depending our age, we had a poster in our bedroom. So it was quite interesting to discover what was hanging in our bedroom about 30 years ago. So that was quite fun.
Excellent.
And so starting from there, we went to pick at the very end the three cars for the podium, and then the best in class.
Okay, so tell us what came in number 3 then.
Number 13 class is the 1984 Lotus Turbo Esprit, because with its muscular head shape, for sure is one of the most representative cars of its period in the 70s and the early 80s. Not only as a W7 car, it was used in the 1977 movie The Spy Who Loved Me. The Esprit entered the imagination of the people, and so was on a lot of posters, not only as a Lotus Esprit, but as a W7 car too. So, you know, I think that everybody remember the scene of when the Lotus Esprit came out from the sea on the astonished people on the beach in Costa Smeralda. So that was for sure the certain class. And we have to admit that the condition of the car entered were absolutely stunning. Nothing to say on this regard. Some of the judges love to note that Raquel Welch was the only other 007 character that came out from the sea in a more memorable way.
Excellent.
And then we moved to car number 2, that second in class. There was the 1978 Bmw M1. It was entered directly by BMW Classic, and let's say that has been the most tenacious contender of the car that at the very end will go to win the best in class. We, of course, everybody remember the M1 in posters in 3 versions, let's say. The road version, the cars that were racing, the M1 international racing is supporting the Formula 1, and then the art project of BMW, the art cars of BMW with Andy Warhol painting an M1. So, and the latter, still more than the others, went adorning walls as a real piece of art, not only the walls of the people in love with cars, because formerly was a paint of Andy Warhol. And you know, we know that BMW M1 was the first time that the M brand entered in the public knowledge as a motorsport of BMW and on the car for the road. And of course, the model helped a lot BMW to enhance its brand in the late 70s, early 80s. So definitely, she deserved the second in class.
Yeah, it's a great, as you say, it's a great poster car, isn't it? And
yeah, definitely.
And beautifully presented by BMW, as you'd expect, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there was let's say, in a certain way, the surprise as the best in class, because that is won by the 1973 Lamborghini Countach LP 400. Because formerly this car was entered by Lamborghini, Automobile Lamborghini. They asked not to be judged, but to be on display only. But at the very end, the judges agree on the fact that there isn't a more symbolic poster car than the Lamborghini Countach. And funnily enough, we had one of the judges that still has on his wall and he was using as a background while we were on the Zoom call deciding who the cars for the Concours. There was a Countach. So everybody.
That's Harry, isn't it?
Eh?
Is that Harry Metcalf?
Yes, of course. Of course, a Countach owner too. So, there was a sort of really interesting pressure from judges. So at the very end, considering that was not the only car entered by a manufacturer, we asked Lamborghini if he could have judged their car, and they say, yes, okay, if you really want, you can do it. Even because the car that Lamborghini entered is a very special Lamborghini Countach, because it's the very first, is the prototype. So it's the very first car that has been named Countach, and is the eldest surviving Countach. So, it still has small differences from a serious production car, but of course it's even a very important piece. So even we have to admit that we were surprised by the fact that we didn't have in the class to judge two very strong, two cars that could have been very strong contenders. One was the Ferrari F40, yeah, and the other one was a Porsche 911 930 Turbo that, for sure could have been strong contenders, but none of the owners of those cars entered the Concours, so that was impossible for us to judge. And so that was another aspect to consider. And of course, Lamborghini story and presentation was spotless, nothing to say. We realized at the very end that the three cars that judges picked as the three best for this class were all designed by Marcello Gandini for Carrozzeria Bertone. And so we decided we should ask Mr. Gandini if we can directly hang a poster of him in our walls, so we can recollect all of his cars. But that was something that really surprised us at the end, and we didn't thought about it while we were doing it. We realized after. So I think that was very fun judging process. Nothing to say.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much to you, Massimo, for being the chief class judge in that particular class. Thank you for the judges as well. We really appreciate the support that they give to the Concours. So there we have it. That's the end of. As we saw, in third place was the Lotus 1984 Esprit Turbo. In second place, the 1978 BMW M1, and in first place, the 1973 Lamborghini Countach LP400. Thank you all very much for your support. Remember, this is for UNICEF, so if you can give, please give generously. And we look forward to the next classes as they come rolling through. Goodbye.